Friends beyond the binary, welcome to the Ryde Society autumn meeting. Firstly, thank you to the Royal Esplanade Hotel for hosting us this evening, and in case of emergency, please use this exit door here, I'll be first, and then out the back that way. Thank you all so much for coming. It's an impressive turnout from Ryde, slightly less so from the Neighbourhood Board.
Disappointing.
Yeah, I hope you all had a good and memorable summer, and I think we can all agree it now has ended. We're thankful for the weather this evening, and it is fantastic to see so many of you here tonight. If you're a regular, welcome back, and if this is your first time with us, a very warm welcome. Please do consider signing up to our mailing list via the Ryde Society website, where you can find out more information about us and what we do. So, Riders, why are we here tonight? Well, the answer is simple. Ryde has recently been awarded a £20 million grant, and preliminary work has begun with the establishment of a neighbourhood board, which we will shortly learn more about. Some of you may already have taken part in surveys conducted by their community engagement team or read about it in the press, and so you may well ask, why is the Ryde Society holding this meeting? The answer is that we are Ryde's only civic watchdog. Our role is to monitor the activities of local government and public organisations, to promote transparency and to hold decision makers accountable. We act on behalf of all the residents of Ryde, ensuring that those that in power act ethically and in the best interests of our community. We are non-political, and our members come from all walks of life, but we share one common passion, our town. Over the years, we have spent thousands of hours attending council meetings, analysing documents, and engaging with decision makers and passing our findings on to you. So why tonight's meeting? Because Ryde has, unfortunately, a terrible, terrible track record when it comes to spending public money. In the 2000s, many of you may remember the Ryde Development Trust, which was set up to deliver regeneration projects. It failed to do so, and the money had to be returned to government. In the 2010s, the IsleOfWight Council's regeneration team spent vast sums on plans for the seafront, which never materialised, and north of £1 million on a Nicholson Road scheme that could never, ever possibly work. More recently, the High Street Heritage Action Zone, the HAS scheme, was another abject failure. When Historic England published its evaluation earlier this year, Ryde came bottom of the table. Yes, the very worst in the UK. It was judged to have delivered the poorest value for money of all the schemes in Britain. The Ryde Society repeatedly raised concerns about the HAS scheme, only to be brushed off with bland assurances. And in the end, more than £1 million was frittered away with virtually nothing to show for it. So, let me be absolutely clear. I agree with Historic England's assessment. It was not value for money. It was a tragic waste of money. And that's why we're here tonight. With these bitter lessons fresh in mind, we want to work with you, the Neighbourhood Board,
Part of the Neighbourhood Board.
our members and our friends, to hold Ryde's Neighbourhood Board to the highest standards. Our town deserves nothing less. I believe this is the first time the Neighbourhood Board has been invited to meet the public, and some members have sent apologies this evening. So without further delay, let's meet the Neighbourhood Board. Well, I think everyone knows all of you.
No, we don't. No, we
Oh,
don't.
you don't?
No,
You
we
don't?
don't.
Oh,
No.
okay.
You know three of us, Luke.
Yeah, but we don't know the gentleman sitting there to
No,
your
well, I'm
right.
going to introduce him.
Excellent.
Yeah.
He's still on the board.
Okay, well, I do think you know your local councillors, and I'm really grateful for you three for turning up this evening, because actually you already do a lot for the town, and I have to say you are probably three of the most dedicated councillors that we do actually have at Ryde Town Council. So thank you. And I know that you all represent us on the Neighbourhood Board, but I am going to hand over to Steve Holbrook, who is the chair, and he can tell us a bit about himself and what inspired him to become a member and the chair of the Neighbourhood Board. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. So yes, my name's Steve Holbrook. I'm from the island. My family's from the island since records began hundreds of years back. Originally grew up in Newport. I left the island like a lot of people when I was 18. Went off to university, did a law and business degree. Then I went travelling around the world for a year. When I came back, I was a couple of years in Guildford and East Croydon before I headed off to the Middle East. I then spent the next 17 years of my career in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia and Dubai. And then I returned when I was 40 and my twin girls were 7, and I wanted for them to grow up where I grew up on the Isle of Wight, and that's returned, so I've been back 8 years now on the island. Last 7 years I've been the CEO of the Isle of Wight Chamber of Commerce. That's been keeping me busy for most of the time since I've been back, and I took on the role of chair over a year ago for several reasons, but one of the reasons is the reason Helen's been talking about. I really couldn't face seeing the money get wasted, and I felt I had the skills to make sure that didn't happen. So that was my driving force in applying for the role in the first place. I have a lot of career in business. My whole career has been in the business sector. From the island, putting the two together, I thought it gives me an opportunity to bring my skill set to Ryde and work with the board in order to do things hopefully differently to the way they've been done before. And that was my motivation. So that kind of brings us up to the starting point. Obviously the scheme started with the Conservative government with their Levelling Up Fund, and at that time there was a very short time frame when that was announced in order to meet their original time frames. We had to go through public consultation in a very short period of time, not enough time, but that was the time we were given. And then we had to get the plan into government, again, not enough time, but in a very short period of time. And that's what we were working to initially. So we started or completed the original consultation in the timeframes given, and we got the plan to about 75% at the time that they called the election. From the moment the election got called, we were somewhat advised to stop work, tools down, and wait to see what happened. We were advised that we could continue to spend money, but there was no guarantee that the scheme would be adopted, so it felt prudent that we stopped spending money and wait, and that's what happened. It was then quite a long wait. After the Labour government got in, not a lot happened for quite a long time. So we just waited and waited. And then eventually there was an announcement that the scheme would go ahead, but there wasn't a plan behind it, and there was nothing we could do still because we didn't know what the rules were going to be. So by January this year, at the start of this year, we kind of got together again for the first time on the basis that things would be coming, that the money would be reallocated. But again, we couldn't do too much because we had to wait for the rules. It was then 7 more months before the rules actually arrived, and they were fundamentally similar, but also significantly different, with a whole new set of guidelines which came again later still on how they wanted us to submit the plan, which again was quite different to the original brief. So one of the things we identified early on was that there were gaps in our original communication or interaction with Ryde Society and Ryde Town in terms of where we had gaps in engagement. So we'll be looking at those gaps and making sure we reached out to those parts of the community. They were mainly at the top and bottom end of the age demographics. So we focused very much on targeting those areas to make sure we had a full representation of people's views. At the same time, we then got into the details of what the new plans were in terms of where we could spend the money. And probably the biggest change was widening the ability to spend the money in terms of the areas. So originally the Conservative plan had 4 key areas which we had to focus on, and then the Labour plan is pretty much an open book in terms of where you can spend money if you're able to put an argument or a reason to do so. So in many ways the new plan is a benefit in terms of the areas and reach and where the money could be spent, but it does mean that we have to go back almost at the beginning in terms of how that plan was put together and looking at some of the engagements. In terms of where we're at, we're at the process now of the engagements largely completed, and as of this week, we're looking at the scheme on how we score potential projects. So we're currently looking at what mechanism we put together on any particular project to see how it would score, and that's really against the government's guidelines. So we have to allocate a weighting and a scoring system against the government guidelines to see, okay, well, this score, if it goes through this matrix, how does it come out? So that's literally where we're up to. In the next few weeks, we'll be looking at all the schemes which have been put forward, probably 30 plus schemes, and we'll be then putting those schemes or those projects through that initial scoring plan, and that will then put out what it puts out. And what that is, nobody knows because we haven't done it yet. We will then be guided by those results, and that will then form the first part of the plan which will go to government, which has to be in by the end of November. The plan is broken down into kind of short, medium and longer phases. So the money, everyone talks about 20 million, but it's not 20 million up front, it's 20 million over a 10-year period. So it's roughly 2 million a year. But of that 2 million, it's a 75, over the period it works out about a 75-25 split. So 75% of the capital and the other 25% is revenue split. And put in simplistic terms, I mean, so 75% of the money you can spend on stuff, and 25% you can spend on the infrastructure and the people and the money you need to spend to make the stuff happen. So that's roughly how it splits. There is ability to pull some of the money or borrow some of the money forward. So if you had a scheme where you wanted to spend 4 million in the first year, there are mechanisms in which you could look at pulling money forward or borrowing in order to make that money available earlier. But that depends how the schemes and plans are put together. Whilst the initial plan needs quite a bit of detail, as the plan goes out, the detail can become less. It can be more in terms of we're looking to spend X amount of money in X sector without having the details there, because obviously a lot's going to change between now and 10 years' time, and there'll be things in 10 years' time which no one will know about now. So the way the allocation and the projects are looked at, they don't have to be looked at in terms of a very specific building or a very specific opportunity as it is today. You can talk about categories or areas where the feedback from the community said we're looking to spend money there, and you could almost allocate a certain amount of money to an idea or a concept, even if the details aren't there yet in the later years. So end of November, the plan will go into government, and then we sit and wait to get the feedback and approval. If the approval comes through straight away, great, we can pretty much crack on. But I would imagine there'll be a little bit of back and forth to when the money firstly will become available, which is April. So as of April, there will be the first tranche of money will be effectively, theoretically available, but then we actually have to put the schemes against it to see how that money gets pulled down. One of the key initiatives we're looking at is forming a charity organisation to sit alongside the board. So one of the reasons we're looking to do that is the board itself isn't an entity which can own anything. And what we're keen to do is create a legacy within the Ryde Neighbourhood Board, which allows projects or the charity which sits alongside it to be able to own assets, which can then create an income, which can then be used in future years. So one of the examples I would give is if the community want a toilet block, let's say it costs £50,000 to build a toilet block. So now we have a toilet block, but we don't have anybody to clean the toilet block, we don't have anybody to maintain the toilet block. But what we can do is invest the money in something else which needs, let's say there's a building in the high street which needs renovation and work. We could potentially buy the building in the high street, we could renovate the building, we could put accommodation at the bottom, at the top, so that people to the right, we could put the shop at the bottom, we could go in the building, we could charge rent, commercial rent, and then have an income. And the income we have from the building we've just converted can now be used to clean the toilets. That's a real broad brush idea, but the idea is if we spend the money in a way which we create a legacy and an income, I mean potentially going forward, Ryde will have a certain fund available every year, which goes way beyond the 10 years, where there'll be money available to keep investing in projects we spend. One of the traps we want to avoid is building something or investing in something which then has no ability to self-fund or look after itself in the long term. What we don't want to do is spend money on schemes which is effectively sunk. The money or the schemes we look at really, we want to have a way of making sure it's not money in, it lives for a couple of years and then it dies, because then that money's wasted. So one of the things we'll be looking at is what is the plan behind any proposal, what's the business case behind it, how will that create a legacy for Ryde, and how will that money going to continue to be churned and churned within the community for Ryde and the wider island. So that's the sort of things we'll be looking at. Also, we'll be looking at people actually coming to us with plans. At the moment, a lot of the concepts are having to be driven from the community in terms of ideas, but they're not coming in terms of developers. We don't have a big line of developers saying we want to do this, we want to do this, which is quite different to some of the other towns. Some of the other chairs I've spoken to in the bigger towns around the country, they have lists of developers who want to act and want to get going on projects, and we want the board to get involved and to help that project happen. We don't have that, which is a shame, but what that means is we're having to very much rely on ideas and then also find ways, well, this is the idea, but who's going to build it, who's going to develop it, who's going to run it, because we don't have this line of developers saying, this is what we want to do, this is our ideas, which makes a challenge harder for us, because we've got to be, at the moment, we're having to do everything from A to Z, as opposed to simply helping make things happen. We actually have to find all the missing pieces in the jigsaw to make these things happen, which is, I don't know if that's a challenge for everybody, but certainly a lot of the towns I've spoken to don't have that in the same way we do. So at the moment, nothing's been decided, no money's being allocated, and we're really at the very beginning of just having completed the analysis of the interaction and getting feedback from people. And now we'll look at the schemes and everything people have talked about, and we'll start to look at the weighting on how they come up. And then we will score them, and then that will start to be discussions in the board, and how we then put that into the first year 1, year 2, year 4, year 10 plan. So that's roughly where we're at. So nothing's happened other than a lot of planning, a lot of talking, and a lot of interaction in order to make sure we get this plan correct. Because getting the plan right at the beginning will make things a lot easier down the road. But even if things aren't perfect at the start, there'll be plenty of opportunity to address them. And if things come up, or new opportunities come up, new schemes come up, then there's certainly going to be the availability to go back and look at those opportunities as and when they do. So that gives you a little bit about me, gives you a little bit about where we're at today. Thanks.
Okay, great. Right, thank you very much. I think a lot of people who are here this evening have their own questions, and so I'd like to open it up to the floor for anybody who would like to ask Steve, or the 3 other members of the 14-strong Town Board, Neighbourhood Board, who are here this evening.
Can we caveat that with obviously just timescales with each person, please?
Oh yeah, sure.
Would that be okay?
Yeah.
And maybe, not everybody hold the floor, and if we can have just maybe 30 seconds to ask questions.
Okay.
30 seconds? That's a bit limiting.
Am I making sense?
5 minutes.
No, I think it's a bit limiting.
Okay, who's got a question?
I've got a question.
Go on then,
Mr. Oaks, can I call you Simon?
Yeah.
Stephen, sorry.
You can call it Simon, but you won't answer.
That's a good start, though. Stephen, I like you, 5th, 6th generation IsleOfWight. Lived in the East Wight, been to school in the East Wight, had businesses in East Wight all my life. I applied for the board, but I wasn't deemed suitable for whatever reason. I was chairman of RBA, I went to Ryde School, so that's my background. For those who don't know me, my name's Nigel Smith. I have a diner in Union Street. I had an hour's meeting with the consultant that you've taken on board, or took on board, Mr. Matthews. I got on well with Mr. Matthews, and we had some very constructive talks. And I'm going to hold my hand up now, because yes, I'd like some of this money. Not all of it, but a small section of it. And what I said to Mr. Matthews was that Ryde's got lots of community stuff, we've got carnivals, we've got the department that got £3 million from a separate bucket of money. Then they opened a cafe, well done. And what Ryde, the foundation of Ryde, is the commercial aspect, the cafes, the chemists, the doctor, everything. And so without that commercial part, you have no town. There's ghettos of people all around, but you have no driving force behind the town. I employ 7 people. They get paid every week. They go out into the town. They spend their money, whatever. I have, much to the annoyance of some people, recently got planning to extend the pavement at the front of my premises to create an outdoor seating area. And I said to Mr. Matthews, I said, look, would it be considered prudent if out of the first tranche of money, it was allocated an amount of money for match funding, which was obviously double the amount of money, to the commercial sector? And he went away quite bullish with that. And despite a couple of emails to him, trying to find out where that went, nothing. No communication. I mean, I come from a commercial background, as you do. I've run big bars over here. I turned the theatre into a music venue. So, you know, I'm fairly clear that the way things happen. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of transparency and a lot of communication. I mean, you say there's 35 schemes, 35 schemes that are being considered?
30-ish.
Yeah, where was the opportunity to put schemes in front of you?
Yeah, I think you're missing. Sorry. So basically, the schemes are ideas like that. It's your idea.
Right.
If he's got that, we now go forward to that.
Right.
That's,
So it would.
That's what a scheme is.
Okay. Yeah. So it would be
feedback.
nice to have had some sort of feedback from that, because he went away from the meeting. That was it. I've got no idea where that went. Whether it was just shelved, discarded, considered. So it's communication.
Yeah, so at this point, the consultant is just to take information and feed it back. It's not a two-way process at this point.
Right.
It's gaining information, getting all the information in, to then be able to look at it, and then look at it in the whole pot.
Okay.
And go forward, if there's questions, but we haven't got to that stage yet. We haven't got to the stage of things going back and forth.
So as you
bring in topics, so if you've given him a scheme, that's still with the consultants, yeah, or ideas,
Right.
and then they will then bring that forward to the board at a later stage, which is when we then start to put the scoring system through the ideas of the schemes.
Okay.
That's where we're at.
So, as you have obviously been around business a long time, you have to plan ahead. You can't just suddenly go, right, let's do that. So as a business, I have to plan ahead for this project that I'm going to do. And, you know, even if they came back and said, look, you know, we can't do match funding, but we can do like an interest-free loan or some way of assisting business. I can only talk Union Street, right? I'm in Union Street. If you walk up and down Union Street, there's so many buildings that would want some assistance to paint, to make it look better, to present our town in a very much better light than it is.
Yeah, so we're not that level of detail
No.
at all.
Okay.
Way far from it. We're really at the very top line of, so a project like that, what we'd look to potentially do it forward is putting an amount of money for high street commercial regeneration.
Yes.
We might say £1 million to over 3 years, and then we go, go back. So we're nowhere close to that.
So one final question, because I've realised I've hogged a lot of time. When will we expect, or should we expect, to have some information on that?
That's a very good question. I would imagine it'd be probably not until we've actually had the response back from government. So could be March,
Right.
could be April, could be earlier. I mean, they
Okay.
can come back quickly.
So, excuse me, sorry, can I just ask, does that mean that once the plan that you're putting forward, that has no public consultation, that will purely be on what you, the board, have decided on behalf of us?
Because it's based on consultation.
Okay.
So that,
But I'm talking about the actual.
yes, so the plan is based on consultation. The whole basis. So it's very clear from government that what we put forward is based on the feedback from the consultant. That's how it will be scored and weighted. So if you're, say you're a lone voice and you're the only person out of 1,000 people who mentioned the high street commercial, then it would be scored lower, but it's scored lower based on one of the key criteria, which is the feedback from the community and the consultation. So where it's backed up by a weighted consultation, that's what people say they want, that will score much higher.
Okay.
Sorry,
No, this lady at the back has been...
I'm no lady.
Hello.
You keep talking about consultation. Where was money put to one side from a different budget to pay for that consultation?
Yeah, it was.
And how much was that consultation?
so originally 200,000.
And where's that now? Where's the consultation?
So it's been, so the consultants, a chunk of it, also the money they gave out to different communities or different groups in order to...
Can you give examples of all those community groups that received the consultation money? Because I don't know. Does anyone else know?
Have we got another microphone? Because we can't hear her very well this end.
Shall I tell Danica everyone up there?
Yes.
We often talk about consultation, but actually we want to see the result of that consultation and what the outcome is and how much people are being paid. It's as simple as that. It's absolutely basic. Secondly, it seems very abstract at the moment. And if there's been consultation, then there's sort of outcomes about ideas. We say ideas, but ideas themselves can be quite abstract. I was involved in the single regeneration budget, number 7, and we have very clear guidelines in terms of the whole of the community, which included business, Nigel, and childcare, youth provision, environment, etc., etc. And that made it a lot easier for people to put bids into any one of those areas that they were interested in. So I'd like to see it tightened up instead of it being still at the idea of ideas. And it seems as though you've already had some of those ideas. And what's happening with them? Why have we not got specific criteria already around key headings for this community? The other thing I'm concerned about is a conflict between what is potentially business plans, which Nigel has very clearly explained, and cultural development and education, social education, not necessarily schools. And I want to ask you to quash the rumour that some of the money is going to go to a cricket pitch at the private school.
The board is through there. No, I can't see any faces either. No, these 3 people are Ryde Town councillors, Karen Lucioni, Mayor Diana Conyers, and Councillor Phil Jordan.
I can't see anything sitting down at all.
Okay.
So I have no idea.
Okay, alright. Anyway, I'm going back now to ask Mr. Holbrook if he can reply to the question, could you talk about some money going to a private school to do with cricket?
Okay, at the moment there's no money going to a private school for a cricket pitch. What there is, because there's no money going anywhere for anything, we're in consultation. So what we're looking at is one of the topics which came up from the public or the youth particularly was having better sports facilities on the island. So therefore anything and all things sports facilities in terms of any sports is one of the things which is being looked at because that's come back quite heavily in terms of consultations. That's where it's at. So all and any project which meets that feedback will be looked at. And it could be looked at in terms of very generic. There'll be X amount of money allocated to general sports over a period of time, or someone could present a specific project, and then that would be looked at on its merits. But we're nowhere close to that sort of detail in any of it. And the earlier question about where things are being allocated, we're just not at that stage. Not even close to that stage. We don't know what's going to happen in terms of is there going to be grants, is there not going to be grants? We're not there yet. If there are grants, how would you apply? We don't know because we're not there yet. So a lot of the things you're talking about are simply down the road, and we're not at that stage. Our third stage is to put together a consultation and then put together a broad stroke plan on how that will be done. But the plan hasn't been written yet. So the consultation is speaking to, sending out the questionnaires, interviews, questions amongst people, which it's been gone out twice, but I hope everyone's seen that now, had a chance to fill in the forms, and that is it. And if not, you can still do it now.
I'm just going to carry on a little bit about cricket, because I did notice that in the minutes of, I think it was the June meeting, the boundary of Ryde had been changed to include a cricket club, and there was a suggestion that a partnership with Ryde School would invest in that cricket club. I've looked at it on the map, and I've known it as a cricket club that's although it's called Ryde Cricket Club, it moved there in the 1880s or something, and it's actually in Brading, and it is 820 metres outside the Ryde boundary, but now it's been included in Ryde. I would rather think that most people in this room would not be happy seeing any part of a grant that has been allocated for Ryde and the town taken out to Brading.
Yeah.
The boundaries are a lot wider than that. They go out to Westridge, they go out into Binstead, they go out to Putpool. So they're wide, and the idea of getting the boundaries as wide as possible is to allow for as many opportunities to be put forward. So by having a very tight boundary, you actually limit a lot of opportunities. And if you have there's no youth in this room. But it's
Yes, there are.
Okay, great, that's good. But obviously, the consultation is over 1,000 people, and it's representative of the Ryde community, and that's young people of all ages. And just because people in this room don't want sports facilities, that's what this is about.
That's not what they said.
I spring down the front. Lots of people would like to see renovated into some kind of sports facility.
Yeah.
No one's against sports. Is anyone against sports?
No.
Is in line with the consultation. So, but in terms of what projects get forward, again, we're just not at that stage.
Okay, fair enough.
Can I ask a bit more about, please, the sports things, because it was on my list before I came. I think it would stop a lot of vandalism if you could have things like a new skate park and stuff like that, and basketball courts down on the front. And you get all these bored teens. Years ago, I had 4 teens, so I do know what teens are like. And they get bored very easily, and you want to target them into the sports that they really enjoy.
Yes.
Not just some, cricket club a long way away. And don't get me wrong, I like cricket. But this is not helping the Ryde teens who then go out and vandalise certain stuff because they're bored out of their boards.
Well said.
So where could you put a cricket team? Where could you put a
Jenny Wade.
Thank you. The Ryde Cricket Club, it isn't exactly accessible to the majority of people. It's out on the Grading Road, which is a very busy main road. There is one bus that goes along there, but in order to access the actual cricket club, you would have to cross the road if you were coming from Ryde, although obviously if you were coming from the opposite direction, maybe not quite such a problem. Given how far it is outside of the town, and given the number of people that lady was talking about that really need to be looked after where the sport is concerned, surely it would be much, much better to find a site within Ryde itself, rather than right on the outskirts where, unless your parents have got a car, you're not going to be able to get there very easily at all, or safely.
So basically, all sites are looking at. I mean, it's obviously one side is everybody already heard about and looked at, but there's others. Swanbrook's been looked at, Nicholson Road's been considered, Pennyfeather's been considered. Anywhere there's a green block of land is being considered. But there's not many green blocks of land.
Considered for what?
For sport, because we
Right,
try to find
okay.
some sort of...
So that would take quite a large chunk of this money to provide a facility on any of those sites you've said. So, when will we get the opportunity to look at all these schemes to say, well, that one's good, that one's non-trier, you know, or is it not the Ryde Neighbourhood Board? Is it the Ryde Neighbourhood and maybe a bit of the IsleOfWight Board? Because we're all residents of Ryde, I guess, or close to, or business people in Ryde, and so obviously our passion is Ryde.
Well, it's the Ryde Neighbourhood Board, isn't it?
Yeah. So such things as sports facilities, fantastic. Such things as leisure, music facilities for young people, fantastic. I ran the theatre for 2 years, and unfortunately, the IsleOfWight County Council eventually just sold it to a developer, whereby it could have been a great place, and then you wouldn't have had kids on the streets. You'd have had them in there doing sound mixing, light engineering, running events. But that's not going to happen now, and I certainly wouldn't want to see all this money go into one project. But I think what people are probably looking for is clarity on, you know, I think you said 30, 35 possible schemes. Is it possible to have a list of those schemes? But because you're concerned...
We haven't seen them yet. This is coming out from the consultants. So the consultants have told us, based on the feedback, that's a sort of number which has come back to them. It hasn't got to us yet. They're still consultants.
But as soon as it does, are we going to be able to see what's available, what people want? Very transparent.
The plan will be published.
Yeah, transparent plan so that we can say, well, that's not for us.
Well, that's what we need to see it somewhere.
I mean, I understand it's not actually a plan yet, it's just suggestions,
But even
of which mine might be one of them that I gave to the consultant. But I think most people here are just looking for some sort of understanding of how this system will work, what will be available, and if you know, Ryde Cricket Club has suddenly got a plan there linked with Ryde School for a sports venue, then at least we would be able to discuss it as a possibility that we do or don't want. I don't know.
I think this is the issue, not knowing what's happening, and it's all behind closed doors. If these were being put out...
It's impossible to hear anything off the back here.
Sorry.
I have looked around, none of us can hear anything hardly. Could you please bring the mic up, and the people using the mic, can you talk into the mic, please?
Haven't got the mic.
We can invite Miss Church up to the front.
Yeah, but not everybody's mobile enough to come forward either.
We hear you. We're going to use the microphone now.
She can always come up and sit next to me if she wishes. I'll give her a little cuddle if she wants. I've seen her for a few years.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Sing a song.
Sing a song, yeah.
Just by way of introduction, I think, as Helen said, I'm the mayor of Ryde. I'm on the neighbourhood board in my capacity as mayor. So I think I've attended, since I was appointed, I think I've attended 3 meetings. So I'm still learning about how everything works. But I just wanted to make a couple of comments. First, with regard to the Brady Cricket Club, I think that was the first meeting I attended that was raised as a possibility. If I remember correctly, a number of sites were being looked at because sports had been raised a number of times as being needed, and it was looking at where we needed to extend the boundary, and so this was justified because that was a possible site. That was a reason for extending the boundary. I must admit that did strike me as a little bit odd as well, but as far as I know, there was no commitment that anything is going to be done there. It was just a possibility.
Okay.
I will say that I've had a number of young people approach me, and I've signposted them to the survey, to post surveys, but about concern about sports facility, particularly basketball and football and various things, and the cost of it in Ryde. The other thing I just wanted to say was in relation to, was it Nigel's question about the support for businesses? I mean, I am no defender of the house scheme. In fact, like most other people, I've been so frustrated, particularly by the fact that we still haven't had the refurbishment of the High Street itself. I'm keeping my fingers crossed because I've been told it's not off the cards yet, but I will believe it till it happens. But one of the things that the House Fund did do was to fund grants for improving shop fronts following a design code in the High Street, and it was extended into Union Street. But we had difficulty actually using all that grant money. It was actually extended for extra time. So, I mean, I agree that a number of properties need to, and we've also got enforcement. We're now paying for an Isle of Wight Council enforcement officer who has been going up and down Union Street and the High Street, working with a number of property owners to try and improve it. But, so anyway, but I did hear that, just the final thing was, I'm in the dark as well, and I think Karen is as well, and Phil. We haven't seen any list of the projects, so we're not keeping it from you. We haven't seen anything yet. So if they do, I will find a way of letting you know.
Oh, actually, I'm really glad you mentioned that, actually, Diana, because what people have been asking for really this evening is information. You know, what's happening, who's doing what, when's it going to happen. So could we take from this meeting that the actual neighbourhood board could start cascading down some information, even if it's just to say we have met and this is where we're at, because the minutes are actually, you've just seen what happens with the minutes. People see something on it, and myself included, all manner of speculation starts. And we would like just maybe a clear bulletin, like a blog, which sounds quite old-fashioned now, but maybe something from the chair each month just saying, you know, what the scheme of work has been up to date. Something like that, along those lines. Okay, who's the next question? Okay, it's this young person.
I'm here.
Well, I'm 75 years.
So there's 14 people on the board. What do the other members do, and what do they bring to the table that aren't here?
They don't bring anything because they're not here.
Stop it.
I can't speak for them. I can't speak for them.
Okay, so the board makeup is mixed between statutory positions and then open positions. So the local MP has to be on the board. The Police and Crime Commissioner has to be on the board. A member of Ryde Town Council and 2 councillors from an Isle of Wight Council, which also makes sense to be Ryde councillors who are on the Isle of Wight Council. So all of those positions are the positions which have to be on the board. Then after that, in terms of the other positions, it's trying to, again, it evolved because originally there was only effectively 4 sectors which needed to be covered. And then in terms of the guidelines, was making sure people from those 4 sectors were on the board. And then when the rules changed, there was a lot more definite, or a lot more focus put on health, for instance. There was no NHS, no health at all in the first plan. That moved quite a bit in terms of the second. So therefore, we then brought Dr. Legg onto the board to represent the health sector as an example. So we've tried to get a person from each sector onto the board. In terms of people, what was really pleasing was just how many people wanted to be on the board. It was actually an awful lot. And having spoken to a lot of the other chairs where they really struggled to get people on the board and actually struggled, you know, it was a real battle to get interest. We've had the opposite. We're being inundated with people wanting to be on the board. And I think that's been good.
So what are those first 4 sectors then? You said there were 4 sectors.
Yes, so originally, I'm going to go back now.
Yes, high streets and heritage.
Community safety, infrastructure and transport.
And high streets and heritage.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you hear that? No, can you repeat that?
Infrastructure and transport, community safety and regeneration. Bundled everything else into it. And now we've got education now, health, business, community, lots more,
Yeah, with a big
all
focus on
that's
mental
what
health.
we're
And that's really, it's really wide. I mean, now you're the opposite. If you have like 24 categories and you still can only have a board of 12, 14 people, there's going to be areas where you can't have a representative of everyone because also the size of the board is reasonably set, and now the sectors are very wide. So really it's making sure that the sectors we think will come up as potential areas of interest are covered, but obviously not everywhere could be covered because there's more areas than there are people. Also, a lot came back that an area which we didn't have covered had a lot of interest. Then we'd look to change things to get someone to cover that interest group. But at the moment, again, we're not at that stage to feel we've got that gap. But if a gap comes up or we feel we need more coverage in another area, then we'll look to strengthen it.
Okay, who's next? Mr. Orange Shirt.
Thank you very much.
30 seconds.
30 seconds, here we go. Steve, you mentioned the scoring process a couple of times. Is that being brought down from a national level or is that being decided at a local level?
Oh, yes. Thank you for keeping it so short.
The scoring levels, well, it's a little bit of a mix.
The scoring process?
Yeah, so everything, the scoring process is open to everybody can do their own thing, but there are clearly guidelines. So you're taking the government guidelines and then interpreting them. All 75 towns will interpret them their own way in order to best represent a scheme of evaluating the projects which meet the government requirements. So they're laying out basically the template, but you can, every town will be different. So you try to get the right emphasis for your town to best represent Ryde, in our case, within how that's scoring. At the moment we're trying to keep it as simple as possible, and we've gone through different drafts with the consultants who are working it up, and they've recently changed again because they saw another town have already submitted theirs, they've already done, and they saw their scoring system was actually really good, so actually thought, well, that's probably best practice. So now trying to look at taking that best practice from another town which actually is really good, and think, okay, well, if theirs is better, let's more fast and do it that way. So again, that's only last week we got to that stage of going through different ways to score it and trying to agree on the scoring mechanism, and that's where we're at.
Sorry, just to follow up on that. So if the project is successful...
Use the mic. It's coming, come on.
So if the project is successful and the money is coming through from government, do we have a time constraint on how we can deliver that and in what times?
Okay, so basically the scheme will be as broad brush as we can, because we want to keep as much flexibility in it as possible. But let's say, for example, the ice rink was number one at the beginning with a plan behind it. First of all, we'd actually need a plan behind it other than knowing that the ice rink's a problem. So just by knowing the ice rink's a problem, unless we have a developer and an idea, then we can simply say, okay, we're allocating £2 million to the ice rink. Okay, when do we start? Well, we don't have a plan. All we know is that the Ryde community has said the ice rink's an eyesore, do something with the ice rink. Okay, great.
Can't you go looking for someone to do it?
We can, but we're also all volunteers, and we don't, we can't spend our entire time going around the country looking for, everyone to come up with a plan. So ideally, like every other town, people will come to commercial developers, people whose job it is to run ice rinks or knock them down. They would come and say, we have that project, this is what we'd like to do, and then you'd work on it. I mean, you could come up to an idea, unless you have the skills and the knowledge to know, okay, this is how we knock it down, rebuild it, commercially run it, protect. That's a whole different skill set. So again, we'll look at every single project on its merits. But where there isn't a plan behind the plan, we simply would have to put a time frame or a rough time frame and a rough element of money. So we could say £2 million ice rink. What year do we put that in? Because we can't start in April because there's no plan. So do we put it in year 4 and say, hopefully by that time, and knowing that we can move it forward? But that's where the whole thing is very open, because we don't have a whole list of people coming to us with development projects and the site and saying this is what they want to do. And that's across the board with all the projects. So sometimes it will simply be the community of Ryde want the ice rink, something done with the ice rink.
Yeah. Yes.
That's it. That's all we got at this stage. So we have to say, okay.
Could you set up a task force?
Yeah, we can set up and all of that we can have. But in terms of Ian's question of when, the reason we can't have an answer is because if it's approved, as of April 1, we can start spending money on a task force to put people out there to go and find people who can do something with the ice rink.
Yeah.
And that's why.
Well, I thought that was all capacity money, wasn't it?
If we don't start that until April, because they've got to say that we can do the ice rink first.
Okay, next question, please. I'm going to go to this lady and then I'll come to you.
Hi, so regarding the ice rink and what the pitch and any other sporting facilities, do the developers know, do the companies which run ice rinks know that we are looking for somebody?
I'm Paul Martin, long-time, lifetime resident of Ryde. What I'd like to see is various dilapidated places done up. There's been some strange decisions to buy Melville Hall and then do nothing with it. That needs something doing with it, as does the Royal York, the Ryde Town Hall. I'd like to see personally pulled down and rebuilt. One more thing, I know she doesn't agree with me on. The Catholic school, that needs doing, because that's derelict. Could be a great block of flats. And the last of all, as you said, the ice rink, which strangely is sold to somebody else and you don't own. It's like split ownership, isn't it? Strange.
No.
Yeah, but that needs sorting out. It's an eyesore. We've got too many eyesores in Ryde, and it's going downhill very fast. It's got to be done.
So, the 4-man regeneration team, 2 women, 2 men. What are you going to do?
Yes, again, all I can do at this moment is take examples. So the ice rink, as an example, is to keep going. It's owned by a private company, fundamentally. So the very first thing is, do they want to sell it? Are they prepared to sell it? So it could be an eyesore and we can all hate it, but if the people who own the building don't want to sell the building, there's absolutely nothing we can do. So again, we can put it in a plan, but we could, in 10 years' time, they could still own the building and not refuse to sell it, and there's nothing we can do.
Can't it be compulsory purchased?
Yeah, so that's a good point. So the Neighbourhood Board has compulsory purchase powers, which is good.
That's the answer.
That's
the answer.
They've never been used on the island before, so that would be new ground.
It should be.
Yeah,
Make it a first.
But yes, there is that opportunity, so at least we can look into that and investigate that. So that it's good that they're there, it's good that we have that opportunity.
Serve a notice on them, and if they don't do the work within the time, then you compulsory purchase them.
Yeah, all of those opportunities will, again, the things aren't going to happen day one, but again, it's good to have that as a tool. It's good that we can do it and we can certainly look at it. Yeah.
Right, any more questions?
There's one
Oh, sorry, I did say you.
Right.
Sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'm not aware of what projects or schemes you've got, but I would implore that one very valued community scheme is put on your agenda, and that would be the reinstatement of a much loved, much used and much missed facility for the Ryde community, which is a splash park.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, in terms of these schemes, I don't know what schemes are yet either. So I mean, they're not presented to me yet. They're still, the consultants are bringing them together from the consultation. That's their job, is to go out and find them all, bring them together, and then present them forward. They haven't yet presented them forward, so I don't know what they are. But for sure, the splash park has been talked about a lot. So I am absolutely sure it will be on the agenda. Whether it's the splash park in that location or a splash park in another location, I'm sure it will simply be a topic of a splash park or something equivalent as one of the things that should be discussed.
Who owns it? Council.
I'm Laura and I'm a young person.
Ray.
I'm 18 and there's a big struggle with people my age having to leave the island to get the right education. We want a uni here.
So the university, when I took over as CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, that was something I worked on a lot in the early years. And we did groups with all the universities in the south. A lot of exploratory work was undertaken, and basically it came back that feasibly it didn't work to have a total university on the island for lots of different reasons. And I was certainly campaigning hard for it because I think it would be transformative, and I would love a university on the island, and I'm totally for it.
University courses added to the
Yes, so that's the way it was starting to go. So what they're looking at doing is building campuses. There's conversations going on at the moment about having campuses attached to, I think, Portsmouth University and others. So potentially a campus in Newport, I know, is in discussion, and there's certainly a will and want, and I would like nothing better than to have university facilities and accommodation here. And if that's, I mean, I personally think it's great and be transformative. So if it can happen, then I personally will be supporting it. But yeah, I can't say any more than that at this stage.
We have had that before, because I support of you.
Can you put your mic up? Put the mic up. Speak up.
Please speak into
Please.
the camera.
Hello.
Stop it.
Don't worry, you really need to hear about me.
Just going back to the university thing, there is a university course that's already opened in Newport for sustainable fashion. It's been a triumph, all the courses are full, so does that not show that other courses that aren't sustainable fashion will have the same demand on the island, and shows that it is feasible, and they've partnered with a local Platform One to open this, rather than going to the mainland to have to, Portsmouth University and that? Is there not a way of these smaller campuses being funded, and they become self-sufficient because they are run via tuition fees? So is that not something that we, think could be?
I'll just like to ask, where will we get the updates? Will they be published? Will we be able to read them? And also now, I'd like to say that you mentioned a survey. I don't think I'm the only one that didn't get one. And I wondered where we could actually get a chance to put some inputs from the general public, where we could come up with our own ideas of what we would like as members of our town. Thank you. These young people are all at the back.
Bring them forward. Bring them.
So we live in Lynn Street, right opposite St Thomas's churchyard, and lately there's been so much crime in there, and we've been ringing the police and stuff. And years ago it used to be a lovely place where families went and people could go in there and chill out because it was a really nice area with flowers and just more in there. It's just became a crime hotspot lately, and I'm just wondering if there's any plans to crack down on that, because we have a grade listed building with single glazing, and we can hear every word basically. So.
Yeah, that's yeah. No, thank you. And thank you for engaging this evening. More young people, Steve Holbrook.
Yeah, so first question was on universities, Platform 1. Again, it's great, and hopefully schemes like that are put forward. So again, it's a perfect example. So Platform 1 is very entrepreneurial from Dave Pontin, and he helped drive that and create that, put it forward and make it happen. So a lot of it requires that. It requires people to come with a plan, with the scheme, with an entrepreneurial spirit on an idea, and then it'll be looked at. Education is represented on the board. It is a key area, and yeah, it's something we would want to support if there's something to support in terms of this is what we're planning. So I hope so, and it'll be a great way of investing in the town. I really hope that happens. Second question was on communications. So at the moment, I think the website has only been up and running a very short period of time. As we get up to speed and get going, I'm sure communications we can improve. As I said earlier about maybe monthly updates and things like that. Absolutely. I think people think we're further ahead than we are, but we are really just starting. It's still very early days because we spent most of our time on pause whilst we waited to see if the schemes are going to happen or not. So our actual operational months altogether are still very, very small. So yeah, there's still an awful lot to do, but hopefully we will get there. In terms of crime, that's why the PCC is on the board, which is Police and Crime Commissioner. Crime's a key thing, and when in the survey, it was certainly on the survey, people were able to rank how important crime and safety was. And whilst I haven't seen the final updated results, it's certainly there. There was quite a bit of feedback about community safety and things like that will be looked at. There'll be discussions on investment in CCTV. There'll be discussions on investment on people watching the CCTV. There'll be discussions on whether we put money towards paying for more officers or security people. All of those things will be discussed, and it'll be based on feedback. So the higher the people are fed back in terms of crime and the safety being a concern, the higher it will then score when things are considered later on. In terms of the survey is an ongoing process. You can always fill in the form, and you can always come and talk to people. When it originally opened, it was open for a month, I think, at NatWest building. It was put out on as much socials as possible. So people have obviously done their best to make it as available as they can. It's on. You go to the website and move across from there. And if people are really struggling, reach out and we will email it to you.
What's the address?
It's on the website.
What is the address?
Ryde Neighbourhood Board.
Yes.
.org, isn't it? .org something.
Something.
Yeah. But actually, when you click on some of that, it goes through to the council board, council site.
Sorry, Vanessa Churchman asked several times this thing.
Thank you. My question is, we get 2 million a year. Do we have to spend that 2 million inside the year? Can we carry it over? Because obviously some projects will take longer to implement, especially if they involved shop fronts, leases, land. Is there a limit to how far we can transfer the money? Because the only other thing that worries me, in 10 years' time, 2 million won't be worth anything like what its value is today. But as I said, can we carry the money forward? And is there a limit to how much we can take forward? Thank you.
Okay, while I'm down here, does anybody else have a question?
Yeah, can I have that one more go?
No. I don't have the actual address of the website on me, but I know if you Google Ryde Neighbourhood Board, it comes up pretty quickly.
We've got it.
You've got it?
It's rydeneighbourhoodboard.org.uk.
rydeneighbourhoodboard.org.uk. Okay. Are there any more questions in this area of the room before I go back now?
And are the forms for this in the, as you say, in the NatWest Bank?
Are the forms in the NatWest Bank?
Not anymore, they're online now.
What happens if you haven't got a computer?
Okay.
They go to NatWest Bank and we'll print them out.
Have to go when it's open.
Yeah, so in terms of rolling money over, the rules changed on that. Originally it was only for 1 year. Currently, and I stand to be corrected because I haven't read it for a few months, I think it's the first 4 years can be rolled, and then there's a break of 4 years. But that's one of the things they have changed many times since the first guidelines came out. Originally it was all fully open, then they changed it and changed it and changed it. I think the latest one is 4 years. But I mean, obviously, soon you can get going, because with all things, changing government could mean a change in everything. So, you know, we're definitely conscious that things could change, and we want to spend money as quickly as we can. We want to get going as quickly as we can. But if there was, you know, the scheme costs more, but we can also borrow forward as well, as I said before. So if we want to do a scheme and spend 4 million in year one, there would be ways and mechanisms to bring that about.
Right. Okay, yes,
No, no, I'm live streaming you. So what I would like to see is some of the youth being engaged in promoting what you're doing, because they would be brilliant at putting out on social media. I was 75 last week, I'm live streaming, but I don't know how long I can do that for. We need the youth engaging and telling everybody else what's happening. You know, live stream is wonderful, but you need to engage with the youngsters.
Well, anyway, I think we're going to wrap up there, because I think...
No.
Oh, hold on, sorry.
You can't wrap up. There's too many other questions.
Just one longish question about the board and its makeup. Basically, I find that, is there anyone under 40 on the board?
Exactly, the youth.
Yes, there is. Okay. Is there?
Phil Jordan.
Yeah. And I mean, really, I think the board does not represent the community.
Exactly.
That's one. Secondly, is there any system of review for members of the board? There is a considerable lack, if one looks at the minutes, of certain people over a continuous number of meetings. And they're not here tonight. Does that suggest that as you had a very large number of people applying, perhaps you should be reconsidering some, or reviewing perhaps the enthusiasm of the board members? And I would also like to ask, how sure are you of the quality of the data that is going to the consultants? Because there is an age range of about 70 years in this room. It's not because we can't use computers. I just think nobody knew those surveys were there. So there's, you know, how good is the data you're using?
Yes, there's quite a few questions there. In terms of the board, so we've had a change in the last week, which should be updated, where one of the board members who identified themselves that they just couldn't make the commitment and stepped down. So that will be updated in the next board meeting. The mechanism for removing people in the board basically requires, it's based, non-attendance isn't a mechanism, because as long as you've sent your apologies, that's acceptable within the structure which was given. So it really requires, you know, conversations will take place if people aren't able, and then we address it that way, as opposed to the constitution in what we've been given allowing us to do that. So we're working within the rules we've got, but I would hope, given the people on the board, if they felt they were no longer able to give it the time, that they would be within themselves, they would step back and say, I don't have that time. And certainly that has happened this week, and I would hope going forward that, you know, given people who are on the board, there'll be of a character where that would happen naturally. So hopefully that continues. The second part of the question was, sorry.
That's not okay.
Quality of data. Yeah, so the gaps originally, when they first came out, was at the very young and the over 75s. So that was identified, and then the consultants went out and specifically focused on those groups in terms of filling those data to make sure the curve was complete. So by the end of the process, there should be an even curve across all the age groups by going out and literally contacting those people and engaging with them that way.
Going out where? Sorry, going out where?
Going out where, she
to
said?
Find that demographic. So if they say we need to speak to another 30 women 75 and above, they will go out and find 30 women 75 and above.
So will they stand in the high street, or what will they do?
They could go to care homes, they could go to...
I don't live in a care home.
They can go to wherever it's required in order to meet that demographic. That's their job.
Yeah, that'd probably be a good idea. Not
Another question.
Well, it is race time. There's two very common questions I'd like to.
No, there's more questions.
There's more questions. I grew up here, I came back here.
Can she have the microphone?
Can she have the microphone? It's the first time I heard about there being a survey that I could actually fill in. I've just gone online, it doesn't seem to be very easy, so...
Seems all to be business orientated, not intellectual. I'm reading it here.
Can you put the microphone? Can you say it again?
So, I relocated back here after growing up here, and this is the first time I heard that I could actually participate in this survey. And I've just logged on and it doesn't seem to be open anymore. So if it's difficult for me, it'll be difficult for many of us. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. No, I'm finishing questions.
Well, that's not right. That's not right, because there's some important question to ask.
Can I just come back to very, very briefly to a couple of points that were raised that probably relate to Ryde Town Council as much as to the Neighbourhood Board, but I feel like to say something. Somebody raised a concern about St Thomas's churchyard and the rest of what's going on there. We are aware that that at the moment belongs to the IsleOfWight Council. The Ryde Town Council is considering taking it on, but one reason why we haven't yet done that is because of the concerns that are going on, which apart from anything else affects the Youth Network Ryde, the youth club in the adjacent building. The police are onto it, the IsleOfWight Council is as well, and hopefully the problem is going to be addressed, but it's very much aware. The other goes back to a much earlier question, and I just feel I ought to say that I acknowledge the problems with the many large empty buildings, and I acknowledge the fact that Ryde Town Council owns one of those, well, it's a smaller one, Vectis Hall. We are working on that. You'll see there is some scaffolding up. Been there for a while, I know. We'll hopefully... Yeah, no, I know. It's there because we have to protect the building. It doesn't indicate that we're doing anything to develop it, but there are discussions going on, and we'll hear about it.
Stop the rain getting in, that's the main thing.
Yeah, that was the main thing, to stop it, yeah. Royal York, as I mentioned earlier, we are working with the IsleOfWight Council to get some enforcement action on that, but it is privately owned, and unless the private owner cooperates, the only option is compulsory purchase, which at the moment the IsleOfWight Council will be the only who can do it. The town hall, as you know, that's been a nightmare project. I think I'm not the best person to speak about that, but the council is aware. It's not easy, but we've got a lot of those.
Do you want to pass that?
So just to update on the survey is closed, yeah. So we officially closed a week ago. My understanding was it's going to be open again, so effectively it's closed to conclude all the data together to go forward, and then it will effectively open in perpetuity after that. So effectively we'll get that open, but there had to be a deadline because the plan has to be in by the end of November, and all this had to be pulled together. So that was about a week ago that it officially closed to conclude that exercise. But consultation will be ongoing for the whole 10 years. Consultation is never going to close, but at some point the line was drawn so we could take all the information from the initial consultation to come up with the initial plan. But people can come in and speak to us at any time or at NatWest Building at any time to give that information. But that's the update on that consultation.
Can the public see in the meetings?
See the meeting.
Attend the meeting.
Not at the moment.
Why
just
not?
going through published minutes, because that's how the constitution was put together. Yeah, but again, all things can be discussed.
We can go to the
Thank you. Okay, I would like to thank all of you who came today, particularly if you were young.
Oh, even more.
You probably aged while you're in the room. But it's a really great turnout, and it's a shame that the other members who are not councillors of the neighbourhood boards didn't come. But I think we've had quite an informative evening, and I'd really thank Steve Holbrook, because actually I've learned a lot more this evening just from hearing the questions and the answers, and I think you've probably learned about what people's concerns really are. But anyway, if you'd all like to now move into the bar for a drink, then that'd be great. Okay.
It's a shame, isn't it, that the Crime and Police Commissioner can be asked to turn up, considering she wants to be our mayor.
Well, that's why she didn't turn up, because she's running her campaigns.
My other point was,
you might be right.
You know, are they going to hold proper? You know, this is all very well.
She has been here twice.
Are they going to actually hold their own meetings so we can go and talk to them?